Hey, students, welcome back to Mr. Lawhon's AP European History class. Are you guys ready to learn? Probably not, because, it's like Friday, the beginning of a 3-day weekend. I don't really want to be here right now, but hey, let's make the best of it. So, what we're going to talk about today is this thing called the Northern Renaissance, all right? So, we're going to ask, what was the Northern Renaissance and how did it affect European culture? All right? So, pause if you need to. And let's jump into these notes. By the way, we're almost done. All right. We've got a couple more lessons to go, and then we'll finish up for that young test. All right. Okay. So pause if you need to. And we're moving on. Maybe, if I can click correctly. All right. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the printing press, guys. Do you guys know what the printing press is? Well, no, that's why you're listening, right? Let's talk about it. So, before the printing press, books were handmade. They were handwritten. They were hand copied. You think that takes a lot of time? Imagine, guys, hand copying the Bible. That's what they did before the printing press was they hand copied the Bible. We're talking monks living in these, Catholic churches. They spent their entire lives translating the Bible and teaching others how to translate the Bible, and that's how they made copies of the Bible that lasted generation after generation after generation. Okay? But that's kind of a pain, isn't it? It might take you half a lifetime to translate a Bible. Imagine that, guys. That is very difficult to do. Now, instead of paper, they used pretty much like dried, treated animal skin. If you look at the really old books, that's what the pages are made out of before they had, what we would call paper. All right, this dried, treated animal skin. And once again, guys, that is a pain to make. So bottom line is, if you wanted to write something, it was a pain, okay? Now, interesting though, pictures, sometimes, guys, you'll look at pictures on an AP test or in your book and it'll say wood carving. Well, here's what you did. Pictures were basically carved out of wood. And now it would be a relief, which means parts of the pictures would stick up. Okay? And what you would do is you would slather it with ink and then you would kind of make a stamp out of that wood cutting, all right? You would stamp it onto paper, or you would stample it. You would stamp it onto this dried animal skin. But bottom line, that's a pain, right? Now, what does that mean about books? They were really expensive, okay? You guys have books in your house. Hopefully you have books in your house somewhere, but you don't really need books in your house just because you've got a phone. But bottom line is, books are really easy to come by nowadays, right? But back during the medieval period, books were expensive. Nobody had books in their house. Bibles were expensive. The only place you could ever find a Bible was maybe in a church, and maybe not even then. Why? Because they were so hard to make and they took so long. So, bottom line is, like I said, books are expensive and they take a lot of time to make. Now, this guy named Johannes Gutenberg is finna change all of that, all right? So he was a German printer, okay? And he's going to invent this machine called the printing press, all right? Are you impressed? I need to go home, guys. This is terrible. Okay, so now what he did, guys, was movable type. Now, I want you to imagine, if you can. See those little squares down there? Imagine, if you can, look down at a keyboard of a computer. You see all those letters down there? Well, imagine if they were metal cubes that were kind of, on every metal cube had a letter. And the letter was raised up like a stamp, right? So if you made metal cubes with these letters on it, and if you made enough of them with all the letters, think what you could do. You line them up, you make sentences out of them, you make pages out of the sentences, right? Then what you do is you slather it with ink, you put a piece of paper down, you stamp it, put another piece of paper down, stamp it, put another piece of paper down, stamp it. You just made 3 copies of that, right? What if you laid out the letters for an entire page of the Bible? Slather it with ink, stamp it, next page, stamp it, next page, stamp it, and you're making copies. Do you guys see what I'm doing here? Probably not, because you can't see anything, but you can see from this picture, those were the size of the movable type letters, okay? And like I said, you would slather them with ink and you would use this big machine to stamp it. And that was the printing press, okay? So Gutenberg invents the printing press in 1450. The D means he died in 1468. All right, now, what you do, like I said, is you arrange letters and you make multiple copies. So, what do you think one of the first books that people start copying is? Guys, it is the Bible. So, Gutenberg made the Gutenberg Bible. And what that is, guys, it is the first copied Bible. And if you, well, I don't know if it's still there. About 5 or 6 years ago, one of my students sent me this photograph from the Huntington Library down in Pasadena. So, if you guys have ever been to Pasadena, they have this thing called the Huntington. It's this beautiful place where there's gardens. I mean, it's amazing. And then they had at the time the Gutenberg Bible. So you could literally go see this Bible that was printed in 1456, which is kind of cool. Did I ever go see it? No, I haven't got around to it yet, but maybe one day I'll, be able to get down there. So the Gutenberg Bible, like I said, it's one of the first books ever printed. But I want you to think about, what does this mean now that you can make copies of books fairly quick? Not as quick as today, but fairly quick. Words can start being transferred faster. Pause if you need to, and we'll talk about it. Okay, the effects of the printing press. Wow, guys, absolute revolution in life. Almost like the internet was a revolution for us. Although you weren't around when the internet came around, I was, and I saw how things changed. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of technology you have when you're my age, and you'll be like, I remember when we had cell phones, right? I remember before the internet was implanted into our brains. That's what you're going to say. All right. And then some little kid's gonna be like, shut up, old person, nobody cares. Okay, boomer. And you're gonna be like, oh wow, I was such a jerk when I was a teenager. All right, that's how it happens. At least that's what I'm imagining in my mind. Anyway, so guys, one of the effects is ideas are going to spread through Europe a lot faster than they ever have. Is that a good thing? I don't know. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. It depends. So, books and papers also are going to start being printed in the vernacular. Remember, guys, vernacular is the common language of wherever you are. Now, the Catholic Church doesn't want the Bible printed in the vernacular, okay? They don't want people to read the Bible on their own. They want to control what is understood about the Bible, right? So you're going to see the Catholic Church at the time is not going to enjoy this. It's going to be a pretty crazy time, which is going to lead to the next chapter. Now, it began a slow process of creating national culture. Now, think about it, guys. If you're a king now, you can start spreading propaganda. Now, you might be like, propaganda, I've heard that word. Oh boy, guys, in this class, are we going to talk about propaganda? But propaganda essentially is just when people in power try to spread ideas to influence the way you think. So, kings are going to start putting out ideas that, hey, we're all English and we're all French, and those people that can read can start reading these things, right? So, when you start having a national literature, it's going to start uniting you as a nation, and you're going to start thinking of yourself not anymore in the, oh, I'm from this village, more like, oh, I'm English, I'm French, I'm German, even though Germany doesn't exist right now. All right, now, another effect is more people are going to be literate. Now, at this time, guys, literacy rates in Europe are very small. The only people that can read are maybe wealthy merchants that can afford tutors and the royalty. 80% of the population, maybe even 90% of the population, guys, they have no ability to read difficult things, okay? They might be able to read a sign in town, or they might be able to read something basic, but most peasants, guys, ain't got time to read anyway. All right. But now, because more things are going to be printed out there, people are going to have more access to the printed word, and they're going to start reading more. So literacy over the course of the next couple hundred years is going to increase in Europe. Now, Renaissance ideas are now going to be able to be spread where? Out of Italy. And they're going to be able to be spread rapidly out of Italy. Remember, guys, the Renaissance starts in Italy, but it's going to spread to England. It's going to spread to France. It's going to spread to Spain. It's going to spread all over the Holy Roman Empire. Okay? Renaissance ideas. Now, one other effect, and this is going to be the next chapter, guys. Spoiler alert. Critics of the Roman Catholic Church are going to begin to print documents challenging its authority. Remember, Erasmus walks in and sees a bullfight in the Vatican. Well, now he'll be able to write, this is wrong, and it's going to get printed everywhere and sent out, right? So criticisms of the church, guys, are now going to become a big thing, and they're going to get spread really fast all over the place, all right? Now, people are still going to write anonymously and print anonymously because don't nobody want to get taken in front of the Inquisition and have an auto da fe where they get burned alive, right? But anyway, these are the effects of the printing press. Probably there's some I didn't mention or, forgot, but these are big deals, okay? So pause if you need to. All right, now let's talk about the Northern Renaissance. What is the Northern Renaissance, guys? It's literally what happens when the Renaissance spreads north of Italy to places like the Holy Roman Empire and England and France and Spain. All right? So, the Renaissance moves north. Well, guys, the printing press are going to help ideas spread to the north, just like I said. Spread to Germany. Even though Germany doesn't exist, it's the northern part of the Holy Roman Empire. There are people that speak German, right? Okay? England, it's going to spread into England. It's going to spread to France, and it's going to spread to this new country called Spain, where Ferdinand and Isabella, in the last section of notes, just united Castile and Aragon into this new powerful country and created the Inquisition and started to sick the Inquisition on people. But anyway, the Renaissance guys are going to spread to all of these places. Now let's talk about what happens when the Renaissance spreads to Germany. Oh man, guys, the next chapter is what happens when the Renaissance spreads to Germany. Let's talk about this guy named Ulrich von Hutten. He was a Renaissance humanist from Germany. Now, he is a big admirer of Erasmus, all right? And what does Erasmus do? Well, he criticizes the church. Now, Ulrich von Hutten, guys, is going to start attacking the sale of indulgences. He's going to start saying, just like Erasmus, you know what? Indulgences aren't really a biblical thing. You can't find that idea anywhere in the Bible. If you remember, indulgences were created, I don't know, in the last chapter to make money for the church, right? If you remember, the Catholic Church believes in this doctrine called purgatory, where after you die, you still have some sins that need to be gotten rid of before you can go to heaven. So you stay in purgatory, and those sins are purged through fire out of you. It's a very painful experience, right? So the Roman Catholic Church, in order to make up money in the 1200s, came up with this idea. What if we told people, if you buy an indulgence, we will pray your family members that have died out of purgatory and get them into heaven faster, right? Well, Ulrich von Hutten's going to be like, yeah, that's indulgences aren't in the Bible. So, and that's dangerous because if you are calling the Roman Catholic Church at the time liars and saying that they made stuff up, ooh, here comes the Inquisition, right? So, another thing that Ulrich von Hutten did is he published Lorenzo Valla's critique of the donation of Constantine. Do you guys remember Lorenzo Valla in the last chapter found out that this idea that Emperor Constantine gave land to the Catholic Church, he found out that that was a forgery by studying language. He said, look, that's not the language that they used in 300s. And they found out that the Catholic Church at the time was lying about Emperor Constantine giving them all the land to the Holy Roman Empire. So he's going to publish that. And more people are going to start saying, if the Roman Catholic Church in the 1500s are not being honest about this, what else are they not being honest about? Now, guys, that's dangerous to the Roman Catholic Church because it threatens their power, right? Okay, let's move on to England. In England, guys, one of the big Renaissance humanists is going to be Thomas More. All right. Now, Thomas More will meet his end in in the next chapter. We'll talk about it. So he was a close friend of Erasmus. I'm starting to think Erasmus is a pretty big idea, pretty big deal. Yeah, he is. Okay. Like I said, he is the guy that's going to give fuel to this guy named Martin Luther in the next chapter. But anyway, he's a close friend of Erasmus. Now, Thomas More, one of his most famous works was this story called Utopia. Now, if you don't know what a utopia is, it's a name for like an idealized society, all right? A perfect society where everybody lives in harmony, utopia. And that's kind of what his story is about. It's a story about this imaginary society based only on logic, reason, and tolerance, which is the opposite of what Europe was at the time, right? Think about the Roman Catholic Church with their Inquisition. Are they logical and reasonable? Are they tolerant of other people? No, they're going around torturing people. Right? So he imagined what would the world be like if we all lived in a society based on logic and reason, not on superstition. All right? And what if we tolerated each other? And what if we gave all of our goods in common, right? And we were all equal. We would overcome injustice. There would be no injustice if we all had the same amount of food, the same amount of wealth, if we were all equal. And if everybody worked to earn their livelihood, instead of you have people at the top that never worked that, force peasants at the bottom to work. What would happen if we all worked? Now, think how that might be a dangerous idea. If you're a king, do you want these ideas getting out of, hey, if we were all equal and none of us were like stupidly wealthy and we were all, equal? Well, no, you don't want that because you don't want peasants to be like, yeah, what if we were all the same and you weren't telling us what to do? What if we all had to work, right? Or what if you're the Roman Catholic Church and Thomas More's like, hey, we all should be tolerant. Don't go after people. What if you're the Inquisition? That threatens your power, right? So you guys can see how if you are people in power, maybe the printing press and maybe Renaissance ideas might be a threat to you. Maybe people might start cracking down on ideas. And guys, that's exactly what the Roman Catholic Church does. They start to create a banned book list. Like, you cannot read these people and their work. And people will start getting hauled in front of the Inquisition for spreading these ideas. So, guys, kind of a crazy thing, but that's one of the effects of the printing press. Pause if you need to. Maybe. Oh yeah, basically argued for equality for all. Thomas More did. All right, pause if you need to. Okay, France. Same kind of stuff, guys. Remember, the French invaded Italy, and when they invaded Italy, the Renaissance was going on. So that brought them into contact with Renaissance ideas, the same ideas that are going around everywhere else. But the French get it because they invaded, right? French humanism is going to lead later on to France making some changes in education, making some religious reform. Although, guys, I'll be honest, France is going to remain largely Catholic. But you're going to see in the next chapter when the Reformation happens, there are groups of people in France that are going to start criticizing the power of the Roman Catholic Church and criticizing the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church. One of these guys' name is Jacques Lefebvre d'Etaples, and he criticized the corruption of the church, and he's going to influence future reformers like Martin Luther. Now, why did I put Martin Luther there? I don't know, guys. It's almost like a cliffhanger. I forgot to put that. Martin Luther. Now you might be who's Martin Luther? Guys, look, he's going to be the big deal in the next chapter. He's going to be the one that calls out the Catholic Church. He's going to be the one that starts this big thing called the Reformation. All right? Do you need to know that now? Not really, but you need to know, guys, that all of these guys criticizing the Catholic Church is going to lead to the guy criticizing the Catholic Church. Okay? Oh, yeah, there's Jacques Lefebvre. All right, now, Spain. Now, here's the deal. Spain is pretty hardcore Catholic, right? They're the ones with the Inquisition. So humanism is going to strengthen the church rather than criticize it. Okay? What I mean by that is people like Francisco Jimenez de Cisneros are going to basically. He's going to become the Grand Inquisitor, and he's going to enforce strict religious ideas. All right. So he is going to put out his own propaganda. He's going to print things that say things like, "Ah, that's heresy. This guy over here writing that stuff, that's heresy." Okay. And he is going to create a Bible which had Hebrew, Greek, and Latin versions side by side. So you could see all three versions side by side. But bottom line is, when he becomes a Grand Inquisitor, he's going to create banned book lists. He's going to say, you can read these guys' works and not these guys' works. And if you're caught, printing these things off, well, then, hey, you're a heretic, and we're going to bring you in front of the church and question you, maybe torture you, maybe commit an auto da fe and burn you alive, right? So, bottom line is, look at the effects, guys, of the printing press. It allows humanist ideas and Renaissance ideas to spread north, and every country is going to be affected by these ideas. Guys, that's the end of the notes. I will see you back in class on Tuesday after the 3-day weekend break. See you later.